Welcome back, everyone, to a hard surface experiment in Blender. I just wanted to make this video now because I've just finished a trial with ZBrush, and I thought it'd be a good chance to try out some hard surface in Blender because I've not really done it, and I'm not very experienced with hard surface at all at this point. So yeah, I felt like a good time to do it, especially as the trial was kind of fresh to me. So I'll get in, maybe talk about the differences between the two softwares in the next video when I'm kind of refining some bits from this model. But I wanted to see what the difference was between them, how they felt, because I've seen so many videos now talking about how good ZBrush is, and I wanted to see for myself what the fuss was. And definitely, I felt that there was a lot different between them, as there would be. But anyway, going on, talking about the model, I was I just went straight into 3D, so no Photoshop sketching, which was good in a way because I don't think I would have started like this otherwise. And you can see I've just reverted back to my sort of default shapes here, very square, angular, um, just showing really how kind of uncomfortable I was doing this. It's just, I don't know what it was really. I think I was just kind of nervous about starting a model like this, and it's just very different. I think when you're used to sort of doing characters and things like that. But as it went on, I loosened up, and things kind of flowed a bit easier. This is a remeshed model, so I just started with a basic square, remeshed it, pulled it around a bit, masking off areas, and then remeshing again, so I had some extra geometry to work with, and just kind of seeing what I liked. I had no intention of kind of keeping this as a final model moving forwards, but more of as a starting off point, um, a sketch, if you like, because I knew I wasn't going to do any kind of drawings to start this thing off, and it was okay. This, I don't know, I'd probably say it's probably rocking a bit too much of the Aliens dropship vibes, which I do love that ship. Um, but yeah, it's just I wanted to get the feeling across that this was a big vehicle. This thing was huge. So I never really had an image in my mind of what I wanted it to look like, which is also why I just jumped straight into 3D because I just wanted to play with shapes and see what I came up with. I did know that I wanted it to be a transport, an air transport of some kind, so it needed to have a lot of room inside. The thing was massive, and as far as features, I wanted it to kind of have an aggressive look to it, and it needed to have plenty of room inside to carry all kinds of cargo, vehicles, machinery, anything like that that was big. Um, Possibly, have a military spin on it. Um, but I kind of wanted to see how the things developed, before I kind of made an actual purpose for it like that. Whether it was kind of civilian, military, that kind of thing. And I think when I've done the model, I'll put maybe a little vehicle next to it, just so you got an idea of scale, because I know myself, kind of how big I wanted this thing to look, but sometimes it's difficult to really see without a reference. So yeah, I'm still trying to make this thing work, force it. But I don't think I needed to do all this, to be honest. These little tiny, details and things. I think I can tell by that point it wasn't working. And this is where I decided to go back to the drawing board and really start with something a lot softer looking. So starting with a sphere and not changing the shapes too much from around the sphere to keep this kind of bulbous look. I thought that was quite well. I mean, it's totally different from me, for something that I would do, which is why I wanted to stick with it. And I figured this sells the idea of having plenty of room in it. It was just kind of a challenge for me to make it look decent and not kind of cartoony. And I think actually this model is started with Dyntopo, and I think I started with just a normal sphere, subdivided it 6 times, I believe, 6 or 7 times, and then I had a Dyntopo in sculpt mode, and I put the levels to constant detail with the resolution or whatever that detail thing is. I set that to 20, and that was so smooth. And that actually reminded me quite a bit of the flow you get with ZBrush. And I don't think there's often where, especially when the models get detailed, where Blender is a lot like ZBrush, but this felt like it to me at this stage. Not detailed, but the brush it felt really good at this point. So I can see why people use Dyntopo at the beginning of the sculpts, because it is so slick, and it's just very good to work quickly and sketch things out like this. And I just had the intention of remeshing, kind of when I got to a point that I liked the model, and maybe put some more details into it. Then I would remesh it and do kind of the usual thing that I do. But this was a pleasant surprise working with Dyntopo, because I haven't really used it much before. I haven't felt that it was that good. Maybe I was trying to get too fine too early, and things just weren't working. I just felt it kind of lagged too much. But as long as you keep things quite low res, and then it's fine. It works very well for these early stages. Now looking at this model, I'd already taken this too far. The detail level is just too constant for me all over the model, and I think I was going for a look where I wanted it to look quite modular, like things come off of it, lift up, and there's hatches underneath, things like that. But I wasn't crazy about the shapes on this. But again, this was like the first pass of this kind of bulbous, spherical look. And I do keep some elements of this, but unfortunately with this video, this sculpt, I lost quite a bit of footage. So you'll see at some point where it flips to another model and it looks very different. And I don't know what happened. I was recording, but it just kind of it just recorded nothing for some reason. So I do apologize for that. And I was gutted, when I look back and kind of lost, an hour of work. Here I'm just trying to put in some thrusters, because I had the thought that I didn't want to put landing gear on this, because I wanted to make it as different as possible as the things I've kind of seen recently. So I thought that I would have the whole of the bottom of the ship, these massive kind of kind of, I don't know what you call that shape, but the bottom of the ship is the landing gear, so it would kind of just smash into the ground, or excuse me, or land in a way where it just kind of rests on the bottom. But I just figured the bottom of the ship would be kind of so robust that it would kind of it wouldn't need landing gear, so it would just use the bottom of the ship. And I figured if that's the case, then it's going to take off from a standstill, so it needs to have thrusters on the bottom to get that lift. So that's what I was doing there. I was just putting those in, and obviously putting the space in for the door on the bottom, which is one of the main features. This model is all one piece at this point, and I just wanted to see how detailing would look at this distance away from it. So nothing crazy. It's just the clay build-up brush and me sculpting shapes into it just to see if I can get away with just using the whole model in one piece. It turns out no, but you could probably do it if you're far enough away. I think you could do it to a degree where you could sell that it's hard surface. I think I wanted to detail it to a degree where um, it was not enough. I didn't have enough geometry for that. So plus I want to get used to splitting my models up as well, especially being remeshed and not retopologized. So they're not the most optimized models, but breaking them up into parts, is an easier way to keep them detailed and have the model look good. Also, I think my brush settings were off as well at this point, because I was playing with some shapes and just it wasn't, it didn't feel right. So I'm not quite sure what went on there. But you can see me trying to play with some of these shapes and just force myself to like what I was doing, but inevitably I had to go back to the drawing board again. This was just another phase of me heading towards that model, which is fine. That's just the same as sketching something out and not being happy with it, reworking it. And I just have to keep that in mind, that it's no different in 3D. Because I still consider myself sort of quite new to 3D. Uh, 2D is definitely my comfort zone, but I'm trying to get more comfortable with it, so that I can just jump into 3D and sketch and have my process sort of ironed out and just make things a lot quicker. This was different because, like I said, I'm not used to hard surface, so this was quite a challenge. And I think it's just the fact that if you're going to be close up to the model, there's just all the surfaces have to be so good. So that in itself is quite hard to achieve, I think. And one of the big differences I found with ZBrush and Blender. Here you can see me starting for the third time. Again with the rounded shapes, because I didn't want to lose that. And I think it's not long now where the footage goes. But what I essentially did was I had this part of the model that I'm working on now, and the other part of the model that we were just previously watching, and I smashed them together just to see what it would look like, and it just worked. Kind of by accident. I just wanted to see what it looked like. But the bottom of the ship was so smooth and simple, and I had all the details on the top model. I just thought it kind of worked. So I stuck them together and started to sculpt on top of that, and that's what you're seeing now. So I've still kept the kind of bulbous look to it, and the whole bottom of the ship is still, the base it would land on. I've just kind of cut away some parts, and so still masking and pulling out. This is all remeshed at this point, but still quite low res. I mean, this is, I think, around 800,000. So, still under a million. But this is more along the lines of what I wanted to achieve with this. I wanted to get away from something that I would normally do, and just to see if I could, well, do it really, because I don't want to go for the stereotypical kind of, if it was, say, military, the kind of super angular, aggressive look. I wanted to see if I could do it, rounded, but still kind of keep that aggressive stance. And doing it this way forces me to use shapes that I'm not necessarily comfortable with. So, rounding them off, and it keeps it exciting for me, to work with these sort of things, and decide where I do want the angular shapes. In an earlier design, I actually did the kind of rockets inside these gaps, but it didn't work the way I was doing it. So I think what I'll do is I'll build those rockets individually, or I'll build one and duplicate it later and change the size and things like that. So at the moment it's just left blank, but that is where they'll go in those big cutouts. That's where I'm going to have the kind of thrust. Um, just trying some things with the masks now, just some shapes to finish with. I've pretty much nailed the look of the thing now, so it's just minor details while I'm sculpting at this low res, keeping it all together, seeing what I can get away with, what I can't. But I still want to keep it fairly simple because I'm going to break it apart now, and separate it off into different parts, and then I'll worry about details and how the thing relates, connects, and how the shapes link together. I was working. You can see me kind of blob some shapes on there. I wanted to get some shapes that I can repeat all over the model, and I was thinking about some like sphere shapes, but I'd still want to do that, but I just haven't found a shape that I'm happy with. Here I was playing around with the stroke settings to dots and things like that, just to see how it was looking on the model. And here is the final stage, what I finished at. Just a quick turnaround to see, before I start breaking it apart and working on the individual pieces. I think I'll probably start on the door, because that is underneath. So, I can, if things don't kind of work out, I can sort of get away with leaving it there, as long as the top looks okay. But that's it for the moment, and the next video we'll break it apart. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.